Kamil is one of the most phenomenal writers I have had the honor of knowing, and he's one of my good friends. He's a safe space. He is just full of life and courage, and like every day he owes me, and we all need a lot more Kamils in the world. So without further ado, Kamil Mahmood.
Thank you, you owe me too. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do some poems and some other poems. So you get some new shit today, actually. Got 2 new poems, exclusive. Is that better? Okay, cool. So, poets, do you just like randomly do stuff and like you'll do the most mundane thing, or you go to like a shop and then you just be like, you'll just turn this experience into a poem, like unnecessarily? So I went swimming and then wrote this poem. I swim and oscillate between breath and the drowned. Chlorine can scratch my corneas one day, but carry my arms another. Like surging along the chords that tie man and desiccated deity. I reason with the worlds that do not know air. If I swam on a stage, you would mistake me for someone who could dance with conviction, like ballet or flamenco, one of those white people dances. Fingers and toes piercing minarets to the drone of a moan. Wrists Sufis spinning in their lubricated sockets, until they name disorientation a revelation. Hyperventilation is a solemn test I learned when the boy who would grow to be another's jailer held me in the shallow end in a headlock while the lifeguard rolled his eyes. In the end, we are judged alone. I kick and scream before gliding with the inertia. The refracted light enough to scry a lifetime through the new skin of a taut gut. My father thinks he taught me to swim on my back. And I was only half joking when I told Beth swimming is good for screaming into the abyss. Counting the ceiling tiles, missing the party balloon that yielded its lung of air to the elements, a last dance pirouetting, unseen, to a muffled splash. That's your first one. You'll find most of my poems are kind of depressing, so trigger warning, you're gonna feel sad at the end of them. So this poem, I actually performed this in New York. At the New York Poets Cafe. Is one of the best experiences ever. If you ever plan to go to New York, make sure you go to the New York Poets Cafe. Yeah, it's called Last Prayer. I proceed to walk under a green dome and keep the Saletti plains in my pocket. Vow this novel colour would look good on God if he wore clothes. A scarce bin exercises chicken and chips boxes. I do not watch the branches, for fear I will be hunted by what sits and waits. The stories our arsehole cousins bring back from the land of our strict fathers, like chicken pox, all itch. Instead of souvenirs, we have skinny aunties with backward feet, from where the jinn are never schizophrenia, or a man's marauding hands, or the fog that grows claws if not chundered, of their violent adolescent bubbling with hormones. You reconsider trespass anytime Ayatul Kursi is whispered into a skeptic ear. The childhood sage in me, enshrouded in a cloak of viridian, says here, wrapped around this cynical skin, is a sour that will boil you. I know auras are too wizardly to be a science, but when my mom first taught me to pray, I held my hands like a half-eaten dove over a misplaced heart. Every boy remembers the first time he learns the heart is off-center, not where it should be. You're a boy, she said. Men cover their belly button. Which bullet hole would leave the soul a widow, if not here, then where, and when standing before him in prayer, Do we guard it like a gift it was not meant to see yet? Do you know teeth should only meet when eating? Any other time is a parafunction, like sucking your thumb. And I, a ventriloquist, do not know what the Arabic means, but the Imam says, repeat it more times than sense. Repeat it more times than sense. Repeat it until it makes sense. So when the final days come, let your muscle memory testify. Perhaps it was the box that held your wooden father, like the ones used to put trinkets out of sight, easier to unpack at the next dwelling in the next life. His body is a chimney through which the memories evaporate, leaving the sediment of rigor mortis and cured leather calluses. I wonder where his soul resides, end of his nose, wire of his scalp, or the eyes bulging with all they have forgotten. Crepe paper eyelids translucent enough to watch the mourners if you squint and see who is crying newborn for him first and for their own sins second. Thank you. I'm sweating, what is this? You think sexual assault is a binary animal, brought out when riled or starved, existing in isolation, an island that pops up when the tides turn or the stars align. You think a predator must wear the costume of a nightmare to stalk the streets? You think it's just the streets and not the corridors of your own homes? You think devastation is always instant, can be measured in decibels or newtons? A battle royale of jagged limbs and the winner can walk away with their dignity. The winner can walk away with their dignity? You think this is comedy? Laugh gutturally like a convict's last breath. You think laughing at their jokes is not normalizing their violence, not a betrayal to those who are unsure if they have survived yet. It is. You think holding the men in your life to account will not lead to anything? It will. You think the law decides what is or isn't moral, what did or did not happen? It does not. You think you have no power. You do. You think this is not your fight. It is. Thank you. I'm gonna do one more and then we have like a little special surprise. So this is everyone at that age where they're starting to look for houses on Rightmove? Yeah. At like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and they're like, oh, I wonder what I can get with $1 million. Like, you know what, I'll go down to 500,000, no, I'll go down to 50,000. So I wrote this poem, again, doing one of those kind of mundane things. You know. It's called Brick. In bed, awake in fever, I trade sleep, scrolling through houses. As it is that age, its blue light has my brow beat. I count coins, banknotes in my hand feel like they did as a child. I eat, paper, sleeping in a white envelope under my bed. The secret game, drug dealer, ransom, and a strange sibling rummaging the cupboards for drug money. Take it and go, the protagonist says, side profile, door closes, fade out. Those kind of games. Give gold, but take manners. Church organ crescendo, balloons falling from the ceiling. You've just won £1 million. You reckon Anne Robinson could take Chris Tarrant? You select. These are the thoughts I literally have. You select minimum $1 million. Minimum 5 bedrooms, garden, parking. Not even 6 days a week for 2 years, or marry rich if that is a thing men do. Siphon generational wealth with a hose, like petrol. I see what's what in Moseley, a decent green to grey ratio. I took my niece and nephew on a car ride through Billsley Lane, showing them what my father showed me. Fortune could be around the corner. Mansions like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Home Alone, Charm, Jumanji, Practical Magic, a decent storyline. The dwellers must be happy here. I lower the price. widen the range. 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, minimum 4 bedrooms, one for a prayer room, assuming I still pray. A wall of books, I lower it still, and recall the time I asked you early in to sketch a blueprint. If there was no budgets, enough space for the ghosts of the past and the parallel to call one another cousin. A garden for chickens. Next page, an attic to see the sky change. A Moroccan terrace to sip tea and gawali, burnt toast, sweet darga, stained glass windows. Next page, lavender on a porch swing. Children and the mess they make, the noise they make, felt tips on matte walls. I lower the price, widen the range. 3 bedrooms, space for an extension, a fire pit, white slabs like on Love Island. Later I dream of the taps that refuse to be turned. The herbs that aid sleep do not take. There is no washing away the cheap cologne of mold, no chickens reared from egg to Sunday roast. On the east side, the sea view is a cliff edge wind, a wind edge cliff. Slaps my cheek, challenges me to a duel. The forfeit, carried to a slow drowning. The sailor's last love letter, last will and testament, flung like a violent seagull. The next day, I'm washing dishes, stacking plates. I stub my unfinished cigarette in the soil to see what grows, and think, no one wants to live that close to a main road anyway, if they want to live at all. Thank you. Okay, so for the last piece, we have a surprise. So recently, I've gone through a lot of changes. If anyone's following my Instagram, they might know. But I've just decided that, you know, the things that I was thinking of doing, but sort of telling myself I can't do, that I'm just going to ignore those feelings. So I want to give a go at writing a song and singing a song. And Aayushi is an artist that I've admired for as long as I've known her. And she was like really great enough to just be like, yeah, cool, let's work together. And we came up with a song. We wrote a song like last week. So yeah, we're gonna sing you a song. Life is long, life is hard. Life weighs heavy on my heart. I won't blame the ocean stars for making me. Brutal God, I believe in the absence of your arms. Keeps me stumbling into the love that's close to me. Laboured apologies, sweating solitude to lesser men. Cogs falter, strangled by forced words on brown paper passed into soil laps. Sometimes, when the wind is right, you can hear the wrongs of ancestors. Stranger to you than presidents of men, pedigree of myth. You, a moon in perigee, jealous of our legs. Your sin, a languished dog, sniffing at the kennel of relevance. I wonder if to you we look the same. Despite your tongue, we send money. Despite your malice, we vote for our demise. Despite it all, we are perpetual. Saplings born into a forest fire, always standing. Do I sit at the table if you won't pass the soul? You, a floundering body, wrinkling for every lie birthed. Your gravelled accent, an untraceable decoy. Banishing the already marginalised, banishing the displaced, the weary, the sick, the broken, like they were no one's child. I want to know who loved you before you were born, and if they tasted bile too. I want to know who loved you before you were born, before freedom. The 16 great-grandmothers unknown sit just beyond your jugular vein, carrying you in their unfinished prayers like marvels, more sacred than engagement rings, worn like curses. And God, a sorter of swords, untangles the maelstrom of errant intentions, a path conjured from disorder, again and again, like he always has. Jeremiah 16:12, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Risen in the hours between blankets, falling sideways in our masochistic orbits, flailing the winds of time, each an unknown penultimate, each flat on concrete chorus, each the manifest destiny of our mothers, and their mothers, and their mothers. An infinite soul poured into unsullied body, into a finite womb, into a council flat in Sparkbrook, tire tracks, inflation, standstill traffic, general elections, Britain's Got Talent, feeding the pigeons, feeding a coffin. There are no more arms to stretch. Unused, they dissolve into phantom stumps. And you cry and forget the mosaic in your DNA, obsess over the aesthetic of our ruin, and how once the whole universe conspired to your need to be born. Yet here you sit, younger than plastic, but older than every conjoined dimension that cracked with your indecision. But life goes on, life is hard, life weighs heavy on my heart. I won't blame the ocean stars for making me. Brutal God, I believe in the absence of your arms, keeps me stumbling into the love that's close to me. Thank you so much. Round of applause for Aayushi, because she's sick to work. And if you want my book, I'm selling my book on the side somewhere. But yeah, amazing night, amazing audience. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go.